Nassau is the home to a well-developed tourist apparatus. It's also featured on every worst cruise port in the Caribbean vlog. Definitely will not be staying on the ship. Nassau is my hometown, so I'm gonna rent a car and take you along.
Not bad. Welcome back home.
Yeah, you got it. This is mostly a local spot. Where shall we go on this 44 inbound journey? Coming into Nassau by ship puts you right in the part of the city built to welcome visitors. It had been a while since I'd come to this cruise port, and a lot of it's newly designed. It's a perfectly reasonable way to experience part of the city, but Nassau is also home for me, so I wanted this day to feel less like an excursion and more like seeking out familiar sights and flavors. That didn't mean avoiding the places visitors know. Some of them are part of my Nassau too. I wanted the freedom to move between them, stop where I wanted to stop, and let the day take its own shape. So I walked out of the port and took a short walk to a nearby car rental place. Nassau's finest.
Welcome to the Bahamas, man. How you doing? Welcome.
Good. You know,
nice jacket, looking
this
good.
is where I'm from.
Not bad. Welcome back home.
Yeah, you got it. So
It's a beautiful day. The water's smooth like a baby's ass.
all right. I'm gonna have to cut that one out.
Later, brother.
All right.
Come on in, family. Check them out. T-shirts on sale. 2 for $10. Mexican hash.
On my way to Avis, I took in some familiar sights and sounds and just enjoyed being home. Hey, the Prime Minister in there. There always used to be a police officer there directing traffic. There's not so much anymore. The British colonial, one of those enduring symbols here. This has been here longer than anything else. Traded hands, sold, bought, renovated, added, torn down, torn up, but still here. World famous, I'd say. In Nassau, the highest point is less than 150 feet. Although not much, that hill really serves as a separation. Growing up, that hill was the difference between an experience that was like curated and one that was authentic. It was a separation between tourists and locals, a separation between prosperity and in some cases, desperation. I rented a car and I'm gonna drive over that hill. Once I got over the hill, the first thing I wanted was something good to eat. I headed first to the Souse House, hoping they'd still have some sheep tongue. But when I got there, it was closed. So I kept going and tried Bamboo Shack instead. That was closed too. At that point, I changed the plan. I put in a call to my sister Lena and headed out toward Golden Isles Road and a place called Culture Kitchen. I picked up the food there, and from Golden Isles I headed back toward the waterfront. I was looking for something familiar, something I already knew I liked, and one of those flavors that just feels right when I'm home. I had somewhere in mind to sit down and enjoy it. I'm on Montagu Beach, named after Fort Montagu. Today is Bahamian Independence Day, and a lot of stuff is closed, but I managed to track down some souse, chicken souse and some stew conch. Trying to find just a quiet place out here on Montagu Beach. This is mostly a local spot. You do see some tourists around. I know that one thing about travel now and tourism is that people seem to want to get away from the beaten path. By and large, Montagu Beach is and has always been like a local beach. Right beside all this is one of Nassau's oldest landmarks. This is Fort Montagu. It's surprisingly compact, especially considering the role it was built to play. Construction began here in 1741 using local limestone. The fort was positioned at the eastern end of Nassau Harbor to guard the approach into the city, and today it is the oldest fort still standing on New Providence. It even saw action during the American raid on Nassau in 1776. What I like about Montagu is that the fort doesn't really sit apart from everything around it. You've got the beach, boats, vendors, and everyday activity right beside a piece of Nassau that has been standing here for nearly 3 centuries. This is Potter's Key, under the original bridge to Paradise Island. Growing up, there was only one bridge. This was it. This is the first one. Potter's Key is kind of the origin of what has become a phenomenon on Arawak Cay by the fish fry. So this is where people came, part of the fresh food culture. You get your conch, you get your fish that were freshly caught. And gradually people started making conch salads. Restaurants sort of expanded. It kind of is what it is today. So today, Potter's Key is kind of still a mix of both. You can still get fresh fish and seafood, kind of like the original sort of fish fry. Just in the shadow of Atlantis and Paradise Island. It's right beneath the bridge, the original Paradise Island bridge. Years ago it was the only bridge, and tourism being what it is, it became necessary to add another bridge to Paradise Island. Potter's Key, you can still get your fresh fish and fresh conch and the like. You know, tourism is so important. You always see your occasional tourist places, but Waterski is more of a local sort of hangout. Wanted to come here. Kind of profile some of those places that are taken for granted that you might not know about. Atlantis is right over the street. In fact, while it's not possible, Google Maps will try to take you to Paradise Island to bring you here. Hey, what you say? Uh-huh. You be closer to like the fish fry or by Waterski? Alright, so I'll be leaving here probably in like 10 minutes though. Alright. Yeah. These are mail boats. These boats used to or perhaps still go from island to island. A lot of people don't know. When they say the Bahamas are made up of hundreds of islands. 21 of them are inhabited publicly. A lot more of them are inhabited privately with people own or lease islands. For a long part of our culture, these boats would literally take cargo and mail from one island to the next. There's some fishing boats. There is the Miyadeen in the distance. Definitely the Miyadeen is a mail boat. There's a very good chance I went on that boat once. Bahamas daybreak. I headed to the fish fry to meet my nephew, and it made sense as a meeting point. A lot of visitors already know Arawak Cay because it's an easy walk from downtown to the cruise port, but it's also long been a gathering place for Bahamians. Over the last decade or so, it feels like its popularity has really taken off. There's the food, the drinks, live events, and then the waterfront itself. The fish fry sits beside the western esplanade and Long Wharf area close to Montagu Beach, one of those stretches of public beach where visitors and locals naturally overlap. For me, meeting family here didn't feel like choosing a tourist stop. It just felt convenient and familiar. From the fish fry, I started making my way back toward the port, coming through Bay Street. This is one of those parts of Nassau where the city and the visitor experience naturally overlap. And on the way back, I passed through the straw market, one of the places visitors have associated with downtown Nassau for as long as I can remember.
Shopping today?
No, I'm just walking through. Then you step back outside and there's the ship again. By this point, I was really just heading back on board. And then I saw this. After finding Bamboo Shack closed earlier in the day, there was another location right here at the port. And this one was open. So after striking out earlier in the day, I finally got my chance to try it here at the port. I kept it simple. Conch fritters, a goombay punch, and guava duff for dessert. And guava duff. Alright, get out of here. Go. It was a fitting way to end a day that hadn't gone exactly to plan, but still managed to bring me back to some familiar tastes of home. And with that, I was ready to wrap things up. It was great to get back and go to some of those familiar places and streets and catch up with some family. Thanks so much for coming along. Stay grounded, stay grateful, and go everywhere.
Bye-bye, Nassau. Bye-bye.
Let's go.
Here we go.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.